putting together this 408 for my 2001 Trans Am crispy chicken. I got some goodies from Texas Speeds. We got the -8cc Wiseco pistons. We also got the Texas Speed forged rods. And we got the Texas Speed forged crankshaft. First thing we're going to do is we're going to prep the block. Smooth out all these spots in the block. I'm going to use this Dremel kit I got from Harbor Freight. It was like 60 bucks. Okay, I've got all the block prepped. You want to smooth out these edges right here so oil can make its way back to the pan a lot quicker. If you got little pockets, the oil can get trapped there. It's not much, but every little bit counts. Next up, we're going to put the pistons on the rods. This is my first time messing with a spiral lock. Just a tip to get these spiral locks in there. Basically spread this thing like a slinky and just worked it in there with the screwdriver. It's a pain, but it'll go in there. How we're checking the rings right here, you just shove this ring in there like that, and then grab a piston and square it up in the bore. Then you take your feeler gauge, and we're gapping this one to 28 thousandths. As you can see, we've already got this one filed. The rings out of the package were showing like 7 thousandths, and we're filing them to 28 thousandths.
Oh my God, I almost died! No. I almost died!
That was about bad. An important part of filing your rings is you want to make sure it stays squared. If I can get this to focus. You don't want one side being angled and the other side being flat. Alright, next we're going to put the crank in and we're going to measure the bearing clearance. All you need is a little strip of plastic gauge, like $7 from O'Reilly's. Bought some new main cap bolts and got the torque wrench here. I'll point out, if this is your first engine build, on your main bearings, the ones with the holes go in the block, and the ones that don't have a hole go in your main cap. And all you gotta do is just line up the tangs in the block. Okay, how to use the plastic gauge. You're gonna take a little piece of this and tear it off. And you're gonna take that little green sliver and set down there between your bearing and the crank. And then you're gonna torque the main cap. Alright, now we loosen the main caps up and we check how much that little sliver of plastic gauge has been smashed. You can see where we removed the main cap and it squished the plastic gauge on the crankshaft. I'm going to show you over here on the bearings so it'll be easier to be able to read the measurement. You take this piece of paper and measure how the width of that plastic gauge, and see we're about 2/1000ths, which is a little on the looser side, but still within spec. One thing I want to point out is your side cap bolt that goes into the main cap has a little bit of silicone on it because it keeps it from leaking through the bolt hole. So make sure if you don't have silicone on your boat, you put a little bit on there so it'll not leak. Alright, on this groove lock spacer, they want this dimple right here face down in the wrist pin area. As you can see, the dimple right there. Next, we're going to take the oil ring spacer. One of the oil rings. Alright, next is the second ring. Let her up. And then the top ring. Let her up. And you don't want these gaps being on the same spot. So 180 out from the top ring gap, we got the gap for the second ring. looks like the rod clearance is good too. Another thing I want to point out, if you see this chamfer on the rod, that faces the outside of the crank, and where it's more flat faces the other rod. So these rods are directional. After every piston and rod that I put in, I always make sure I can make a full turn with ease, not locking up, no binding. No, got it all put together. Just gotta wait to tear the car apart. If y'all got any questions, just leave me a comment. Thanks for watching.